Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Aaron Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
All right, welcome to another edition of New Voices. My name is Aaron Wiggum, and I'm your host, also managing director of New You. New You is a way for an individual to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. And New Voices here is a way it's a megaphone for individuals who have endured pivotal and transformational experiences. And so we have a wonderful guest, a highly decorated guest today with us that I'm really excited to have a discussion with. You're going to get to know him a little bit better. But we've been waiting for this discussion to happen for a little while now. We're excited for it to take place. So I want to, this man is a husband. He is a father. He's a man of faith. I know him as a decorated musician and a producer. And what I know him also to be is a man of integrity. And so these are some of the things that highlights that I've known in the dealings that we've had. He's come through several times in a pinch for me when we needed some music provided, and even got on the road and brought his team and everything. So I want you to sit back and just enjoy this discussion with none other than Daniel Weatherspoon. Welcome, Daniel.
Well, thanks for having me, my brother. It's good to see you again, man.
Likewise. So let me just set this up a little bit. We met originally, my brother-in-law, Dave Mumford, shout out to Dave, made a call, and he said, hey, I got a brother here in town in Cleveland. He just did a show, and he's headed back to D.C. You need somebody for tonight in Pittsburgh? I said, sure, we can figure something out. And so my wife and I were talking about the board for a cruise when I got the call. And so I had to make a call to the chancellor. I was at Penn State at the time. And I told her, hey, we got this guy, and we just launched a business incubator. And we had 3 restaurants that we were launching out of there. And long story short, we put together something called a Taste of Jazz. Yeah. And our very first Taste of Jazz featured Daniel Weatherspoon and his band. They came, we charged the community about $15 to come in, get some good food, a tasting of these restaurants over his jazz music. It was a concert and a meal. And it was a knockout success, standing room only. And that was the beginning of our relationship. So it's good to circle back now about 6 or 7 years later and remain connected.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Usually what we do, I want to start from the beginning. So if you take us back and just tell us, what is the Daniel Weatherspoon story? However you see fit to tell it.
Yeah. Again, man, thanks for having me on. It's been a while, and I'm glad we stayed connected. That was in Penn State, and you're in Tulsa now.
Yeah.
Life is good, man. Life is well. My story starts in a couple places, but I'll skip past a few things and just I kind of took music serious around maybe 12 or 13 ish. Of course, growing up in church and family's kind of musical. My dad played bass a little bit. My mom, sang a little bit, but it wasn't a career thing. It was just, church. And but grew up, and then around town, over time, I got in band in high school, and it just evolved. Over time, things happened. Did a ton of local things, playing around town, and small recordings that never came out, and just pick up gigs and learning the city, learning my crafts, seeing a few people, and then I guess the pivotal moment was for me with music was I was working on a record for Ricky Dillard called Worked It Out.
Okay.
And in the middle of that record, and I had never heard of him, but this guy named Donald Lawrence came to one of the rehearsals, and maybe about a week after the recording, Ricky said, "Hey," called me and said, "Hey man, this Donald wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Who's Donald?" Like, cause I grew up in Church of God in Christ, and I think Donald was from PAW or a whole other.
Apostolic. I think it was apostolic. Yeah.
So our worlds just weren't in the same.
It don't connect. Yeah.
So I literally had no idea what Bible stories was and all of this. I had no clue of what it was.
And you were based in Chicago at this time, right?
Was actually in Chicago at this time.
Okay. All right.
I'm in Maryland now, but I literally had no idea who he was. And Donald called and said, "Hey man, I'm the guy that was helping Ricky with his vocals." I was like, "Yeah, man, I remember meeting you." Blah blah blah. He said, "Listen, I want you to come. I'm working on something next week." The very next week, he said, "I'm doing this record next week, and for about a month, we've been trying to figure out this missing element of what we need on this record." And he said, "If you're open to it, I want you to come spend a week with us in Detroit because we're doing Finally Karen, which is Karen Clark's debut album."
Yeah.
And,
wow.
And I was like, "Oh, like, sure."
Yeah.
Then that started a whole snowball of things, man. It was like, I got a call about a month ago, and I don't take this any kind of way of, I hope this don't come off the wrong way or anything, but they called the committee called me about a month ago and said, called my manager and said, "Hey, we want to honor Daniel at an event as having the most recognized solo in gospel music history."
Wow.
And it was for the song "Jesus Is a Love Song."
Wow.
So that was me on the solo of Karen's record, and it's featuring the Clark sisters and all that. And this was like 20, 25 years ago now. I'm 52, so I'll be 52 in December. So I had to be in my 20s then, early 20s. And they said to date, it's the most recognizable and most, I guess, I don't know if I want to say famous or whatever, but the most recognizable.
It's a staple.
In gospel music. And I'm like, whoever would have known that would have been, I met the guy the week before. And 25 years later, it comes out. And, but since then, just things happened. It just snowballed. I grew up with some people, me, Donovan McNabb, Carl Thomas, who was signed to Puff. We all grew up. We grew up in Chicago. So I was with Puff. I was with Carl when he got signed to Puff, and I was with Donovan when he got traded to the Eagles. And it was like, signed to the Eagles, and this stuff just happened. It went from Karen's record to a bunch of records with Donald Lawrence, and then a bunch of records with a bunch of folk, and then BB, and then BBCC stuff over the years, Yolanda stuff, Ben Tanker stuff over the years. Just a ton of. It was blessed to turn into a whole lot of stuff, and even some R&B things throughout the years. I did a remix collab with Janet Jackson maybe 10 years ago. And I did Beyonce's tour live at Wembley. Just a whole bunch of stuff that happened that nobody had a clue was going to happen. So I don't, to this day, I don't look at it as I was supposed to be in that seat. It's still kind of looking back at stuff and saying, man, whoever knew that was going to be,
Right.
So I don't take it to head. It's just, I can't take it to head mainly because my children, they don't see that. They still don't see that to this day.
They see dad,
They see the dad that's coming to the soccer games and picking up from school, and I need some shoes or what I'm getting for my birthday, or can we go get some meat? Or dad, can you pick up some? They just see that. So there's no way I can float in all of the stuff that a career has done for me.
Right.
It's when I come home, they don't care what plaque is on the wall. They just want to make sure if they take a shower, the water gonna be hot.
Right.
You know, you know,
Yeah. Them Grammys ain't turning the water hot. Yeah.
it don't mean
Yeah.
nothing to them. You know,
Yeah.
they've been to my shows, and you know, my son is graduating. The middle child is graduating high school this year, and he every now and then he'd be like, "Dad, my teachers, they go to private school.
Mm-hmm.
The boys, Kennedy, my oldest, is 23, so she's long gone, and
Mm-hmm.
but Carter's in high school, and he'll say, "Dad, we was in the lunchroom, you know, at school, and your music was playing through the speakers at school, you know." And it's like, you know, and they'd be like, "Dad, you know, Carter, ain't that your father playing?" Like kids at the school recognize the music, and the teachers are playing the music, and
Wow.
so that kind of gives them a little,
Yeah.
you know,
A little moment. Yeah.
little
Give them a
moment.
moment. Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, man, when they come home, they don't see it. It don't register to them that dad has been doing all of this. They just either the relationship is healthy or it's not. You know,
Right.
it's either we, you know, and so it's good, man. And then maybe the last 6 or 7 years, maybe around 45 or 46. I had to be about 45
Mm-hmm.
when I came to you. Um, uh, at some point, I just decided to fight for myself. I mean, I've helped a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
over the years get filthy rich.
Mm.
Or like
Mm.
I know artists. I mean, I've helped, you know, change their entire trajectory of their career. You know, I did a lot of big songs. I did "Praise Is What I Do," and
Mm-hmm.
I did "Lord, I Love You More Than Anything." I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
you. I did "Nobody."
Lamar Campbell.
Lamar Campbell
Yeah.
did "Nobody Greater" for Vashawn Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Did I mean, just a ton of songs we've done over the years to
Right.
produce, and it's been life changing for a lot of people, you know.
Right. Right.
And but I never felt like I never did anything that tells my story through music.
Right.
So when I finally decided to do it, I realized that all of the awards and the accolades and stuff had no impact whatsoever on me being a solo artist.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so
It's like you're starting from scratch.
I started from scratch, you know,
Yeah.
and I was when I was out with Beyonce, man, we did Mandela's birthday party this in Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Oh, I
and
love Cape Town.
yeah, it's beautiful. And the name of the festival was 4664, which is his cell number.
Oh, okay.
It was
Yep.
him. And Oprah and Bono from YouTube, they were the hosts, and Beyonce was there, Celine Dion was there, all of these, you know, some of the Rollins, you know, just all of these
The
highest.
icons. Yeah. Icons. Yeah.
And we did about an hour and a half show, and it was 700,000 people in the audience. It was at an open field that was about 3/4 of a mile long and wide.
Mm.
And they had the stage and maybe 40 screens spread around I mean, it was it was so massive you could never see the end. Like I've never seen nothing like that.
Wow.
And so I've seen that. I've experienced that. I've done stuff with Obama. I've done
Mm-hmm.
stuff for, you know, I've done a lot of stuff. But then when it's time for me to be an artist, man, I had to get a U-Haul and pull a U-Haul. And you know this for
Yeah.
yourself.
I know personally. Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, man, all of that stuff is irrelevant. It's like
Yeah.
I'm starting over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I had a regret, I don't have many. I don't have any. But if I had I don't want to call it a regret, but if I had something that I would have figured
A
out,
do-over. Yeah.
do over is I think I would have fought for myself younger.
That's a
Like
good point.
I feel like I waited to make me the priority late.
Mm.
You know, I know how to manage it well, but I just feel like the fights that I've been having to fight as an independent.
As an independent artist.
Yeah, the fights I've been fighting as an independent artist,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should have been fighting that at 20, 25, just because of where I think I could be for myself in the artist realm now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the only difference of I wish I would have started believing in me as with my piano, with stories I can tell about myself earlier. But it just happened. It just didn't happen that way. I never saw it. You get one call, you get another call, you get a trip, you get a flight, you get a,
Go for the ride. Yeah.
you go for the ride. And and it took me on an incredible journey for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
so, I have no complaints. I'm just, being an artist ain't easy. It's just, I know that. I'll tell you that. It
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it.
everybody. Yeah.
I get it, man. Wow, that's powerful. So let's go back through there. So you're young, you get the call, finally Karen, and you're working with gospel savants, Ricky Dillards and the Donald Lawrence and the Clark sisters. I mean, you don't get any bigger than these names, right, in gospel music. So as you're blazing, you are on this trail. How is Daniel the man handling this level of exposure in your 20s? How's Daniel the man navigating life, working with such giants in gospel and secular music?
Um, um, hmm. Well, at a younger age, I think I handled it very well because my parents have always just been, we didn't grow up, and you hear this story all the time. People
Mm-hmm.
always got the story of they didn't grow up rich and they didn't grow up, but
Right.
we grew up simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say we grew up poor. I'm not gonna say we grew up broke.
Right.
We just grew up simple. My dad worked. We went to church 4 days a week because it was Church of God in Christ, and
Right.
and my mom worked at the library. It was just a
Yeah.
simple life, and
Okay.
so I enjoyed it. I loved. I wouldn't say I was ready to get away from home. It wasn't that. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
when it started snowballing and you're flying and you staying in hotels and you're getting picked up in the car and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, yo, this is really dope. Like I can do this forever. And
Mm.
I think one of the things that kept me grounded was, uh, I was very adamant at a young age of having mentors.
That's
Like
good.
I sat under Kevin Bronson, who was a drummer for Milton Bronson's son.
Milton Brunson. Yep.
He was a big brother. Anthony Harmon was a big brother to me, who passed away, bass player. Derek Lee was a big brother to me. He used to be Bobby Jones' music director. Like certain people, Sanchez Harley was a big brother to me. I just sat under a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
that just started teaching me early that the music industry will trick you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it looks really, 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 really good, and then in any moment the industry can turn.
Yep. Yep.
Like at any moment you'll be doing great for 6 months, and then all of a sudden it go cold turkey or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I ended up learning my cycle. My cycle was um, um, my cycle was from Thanksgiving to maybe the middle of January for about a 10-year period. Consistently, I had no work.
Mm.
Like it happened one year,
Dude.
and I'm like, I mean, and then I started learning about how the cycles of music work around Christmas and the holidays and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Christmas albums are coming out, and ain't nobody spinning records. And then I
Right.
started learning that these Christmas albums were being done back in February, and they were just
Yep.
waiting for them to come out
For Christmas time. Yeah.
Christmas
Yep.
time.
Yep.
And literally for about a 10-year period, I made no money for about 3 months.
Right through the holidays when you need it
Right
the most.
at the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
And then uh, it became so consistent, and it was like, all right, Daniel, now maybe around, I'm going to tell you a little bit because I skipped over this when I was telling you my story. So I guess I got
Mm-hmm.
to tell you now. So I was born with bone disease.
Oh, okay.
All right. And at 9, I had found out we discovered it at 9 because
Okay.
I wasn't into music. I was in the sports.
Okay.
I wanted to play football for a living. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was my thing. I wanted to
Yeah.
be either running back or corner or something. Or I wanted to be the one that get the score.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I want to be the one to shine,
Yeah.
and I loved it. And I found out at 9 is when we discovered I was born with it. We never knew I had it until I got hit in football practice, and I
Okay.
got hit, and I got hit on my side, and I never stood up again. Like I was in the middle of a field for about an hour, and my parents, they had to literally get my parents, and this wasn't cell phones then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was like this. I don't know how this generation would ever survive my age, because it wasn't cell phones, it wasn't iPads, it wasn't it wasn't none of that. They had to go
Find your parents. Yeah.
find my
Yeah.
parents, which was
Yeah.
only 4 blocks from 2 blocks from where we lived, within walking distance of school. Um, and they had to go get my parents,
Mm-hmm.
bring them to the field,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had to take me to the
To the
hospital.
hospital. Yep.
And that's when we found out my right hip had completely shattered. So I had and I never told you this. So I had my hip replaced the year before I came to you.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I came to you. I think I had my hip replaced at 40. Now I'm young saying this. I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
43, 44 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
My hip replaced, and uh, the older I got, and having more complications and having to have treatments, and
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to replace my hip in my 20s. That's how damaged it was. But I had just got used. I had got so used to walking on it.
Yep. You compensate. Yeah.
And they said it. They told me something. They said the thing about getting your hip replaced is you can only have it done twice in your lifetime.
Oh, okay.
So if you get your hip replaced in the 20s, at the time it was metal, so it was like the type of metal was, it has to be replaced in 19 or 18 years. It's not a lifetime replacement.
Right. Right.
And then so if you get it replaced in your 20s, and then in your 40s you got to get it redone.
Mm-hmm.
When that
Then you
one
still gotta. Yeah.
when that one wears off in your 60s, you can't get your hip cut. Your bone can't cut anymore.
Right.
So at that age, you'll be in a chair for the rest of your life.
Mm.
So I figured out a way to walk on a shattered hip till I was 45.
Wow.
Like I'm in pain, limping. I mean, people that know me know, I had this, they knew oh, here come Daniel. Like it was and this is nothing I'm making up. This is a true side of me that the industry I don't talk about much, but you saw me coming, you saw me limping.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
and, in my 30s, it kicked in that, Daniel, hey, you ain't got no insurance. You too old to be on your parents.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So I had to just rethink survival.
Yeah.
Like I had to rethink how I'm gonna survive, and that all of that stuff just kind of kept me. There's a reality to this, like, and then when I got closer to my 40s, I started realizing there were kids at 12 years old that can outplay anybody on the planet. And,
Yeah.
and it was like, Daniel, you gotta look at the history of music. And I did this. I met Quincy Jones, and I was in Sweden doing a jazz festival. And my first time meeting him, we talked. I was with BB Winans, so it was me, BB Winans, Quincy Jones, and we were backstage having a whole conversation. And he told me, he said, no, I asked him the question that he's been asked 80 million times: is what was it like working with Michael Jackson?
With Michael Jackson, yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you meet Quincy, everybody wants to know that. And his thing was, Michael Jackson wasn't the Michael Jackson before I met him.
Right.
Like Michael Jackson didn't become the Michael Jackson until
right.
Quincy touched him, until Quincy did the Thriller record.
Right.
And it was like, now this is the untouchable Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Because
he had about 4 or 5 flop albums in there after the Jackson. Yeah, there was some floppers in there until Quincy put that stank on it. Yeah.
Yes, but even then they didn't know. I mean,
Right.
I think that thing is at 129 million records to this day. Like, there's no album within 100 million copies of that album.
Right.
You know, and he told me, he said, think about this at my age, and this wasn't long ago. I didn't get to meet him till I was maybe 48, 47.
Mm-hmm.
But it really, no, I take that back. 38, 37. It was before my 40s. And he said something to me. He said, when you realize to put the right plan in place is look at all of the people that you thought would never stop working.
Mm.
So he said, when you start realizing this over time, it'll make you think about how you're going to survive after music. And it didn't kick in until later.
Wow.
So around 45, 46 years later, I started noticing that Babyface wasn't a dog no more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started noticing that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis wasn't running the game no more.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
And then I started realizing, and then it was Timbaland's game, and then it was Rodney Jerkins' game, and it was the Neptune's game, and then for a while it was Puff's game, and it was like, wait a minute, the dudes I grew up fantasizing about ain't getting calls no more.
No. No. Yeah.
It was like the big dudes, like it was a season I want to say it was a season maybe 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And I know their run was longer than that, but there was a season where I couldn't turn on the radio and not hear an artist singing a Babyface song or a Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis song.
Right.
There's a season in gospel music where you couldn't, for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you weren't going to hear a record that Kevin Bond didn't produce.
Right. Yep.
Then it went through a whole run where you ain't going to hear for about 6 years, you ain't going to hear a single song that J. Moss didn't do.
Yep.
And then for a while, then it was like every record for 7 years was an Aaron Lindsay record.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, so then it's like when you start thinking about the history of like everybody's thing,
the seasons.
its seasons
come,
they start and they end.
Yeah.
You don't wish that on nobody.
No.
But you just realize that
it don't last forever.
It don't last forever. And the more and more I start thinking about that and my kids getting older, it was like, yo, Daniel, you're not gonna be 60 years old doing a pickup gig at the barbershop or something like that. You gotta you gotta figure this out now, because the thing about industry money is it run out.
Yeah.
Like there was a season where like, I'm gonna tell you one good thing, and we ain't never gotta talk about money again, but my first publishing deal was with EMI, and it was $300,000.
Okay.
And I took the advance and built the house in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Built my first house, and not knowing that you can't write off construction costs. Now I don't know if this is anywhere else, but in Illinois, the money you spend designing and building a house, you can't write it off.
Well, yeah.
So I spent about $100,000 building a house, right? I mean, that's the money I put in to get into. Man, that first year my tax bill came around and it was more than what I spent. And I'm like, but I spent all of this money. It's like, dude, you don't get a benefit for building a house. You get a benefit for paying the bill. You know? And then from that point on, I had to realize, this hype thing and this blah blah blah, you gotta have a plan.
Yep.
No matter if it's music, if you're in the architecture, if you're anything in the arts realm, if you're a designer, makeup artist, a stylist, a barber, whatever, anything that's in this whole creative kind of space, graphics, blah blah blah, you gotta have a plan, because somebody gonna shine better than you. Somebody's gonna work cheaper than you. Somebody's gonna have better gear than you, a better creative mind. Like, you got to figure out a plan on how you're gonna survive. Blah blah blah. And when I just, I had a good 40s where I grew up. So maybe it wasn't so bad that I started the artist thing so late. I got to manage it better. But I wish I fought for myself earlier. But I learned a lot in 25, 30 years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's kind of been passionate. I don't want to ramble on too much, but it's been passionate. Something in me made it last year to either write a book or to do a master class tour on everything on how to survive in music without music. I haven't named it yet, but I've really been thinking about how do I go around and just talk to people in cities about how to survive in an industry when music is not the thing that's keeping you relevant, or
Right.
how to do music. So just kind of keep me lifted on that one, man. I got to figure out a plan for that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole generation that really don't know that this is not an easy game.
Right.
It's
Right.
not. It's a lot of glitz and glam, but it's not an easy world.
Let's stay in that vein, man. Where so let's talk about as a producer and a musician. Let's talk about one of those dry spells, or maybe it doesn't have to be music related. Maybe it's relational, where you just didn't know how you were about to make this thing work, whatever this thing is, relationship, a tour, a record. You just didn't know what the end, like, how am I going to make this thing work? How did you hold on to hope through that dark period, or through that pivotal time?
That can go a few ways. Now, hope. I don't think I really understood hope until in my 40s.
Okay.
Like, I really didn't understand it because, and I've said a whole lot, and I've experienced a whole lot, and I've shook a whole lot of hands, and I haven't even said probably 10% of the people I've worked with, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's irrelevant, but I didn't really understand hope until I got a little more mature in faith, because
Mm.
I would look back in these days. Now, when I say that, I say I've met a lot of people, I've worked with a lot of people, but it was a lot of broke days in them people. It was, I mean, I'm never going to be the one to tell you that my car wasn't repossessed.
Right.
I'm never going to tell you I'm not the guy who got foreclosure letters.
Yep.
I'm not going to ever tell you my phone ain't never been cut off.
Yep.
I'm never going to tell you I'm never going to be the guy that not tell you the truth.
Right.
In if I'm 51, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I've seen flying. I've been to court with gospel artists because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get publishing.
Mm.
I've been out of town with artists and they didn't pay for my flight home, and I'm sitting in the airport with no ticket to the house.
Mm.
I've flown out of town to work with people and get to the front desk of the hotel, and my room wasn't paid for.
What?
Like I've seen it all. Like, I've seen all of the great side of it. I've stayed at some of the most. I've stayed in. Let me say it like this: I've been to more places in the world that my dollar could pay me to get, that I would spend on myself to go.
Mm-hmm.
I've been from Dubai to Beijing to South
Mm-hmm.
Africa to Australia to London to Tokyo. Like, I've been everywhere, and it would never be I got the bag and I'm gonna do it myself. Like,
Right.
I've seen hotels that I can't even describe to people, and it's always
Yeah.
been on somebody else's dime. It's been
Dime. Yeah.
somebody else's money, and
Yeah.
but then you go through all of that, and then you'll be doing that, living that life in February, and then you get back home and you won't get no experience like that again till October. You know,
Mm.
so while you home, you're doing a pickup gig at a club, and you're doing this, and that big money you made in February then ran out by March. And, so I've seen it all. So I didn't. When you asked me how did I get through dark days, it started with humiliate. I think I didn't start off with faith. I started off being humiliated.
That's good, man. Wait,
I,
say that again. Say that again. Say that
yeah,
again.
I didn't start off in faith. I started off being humiliated. I started off.
Wow.
I started off being embarrassed.
Embarrassed, the shame. Yeah.
The shame of, dude, you just came back from. You spent 10 days in London working at the same studio the Beatles worked at, and you here a week later 3 weeks later and they about to take your car. Like I've seen the worst of it. Like I've seen it, but I didn't understand hope, if that's the word you're choosing, until I was later on in life when I realized, and I can literally look back over 20 years of my career and say, every time it got dark, some way or another, I made it
got out. Yeah, yeah.
Like
wow.
every single time, it was painful. It was embarrassing. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why artists that called themselves, that I thought were family, artists that I thought were family friends of mine, I call them for help and they don't answer the phone. It's like, dude, you answer the phone when you on the track, or you answer the phone when you want some music done. I need to borrow $1,500 because I'm in trouble, and you disappear.
Right.
It's when you realize the music industry isn't relational. 80%
it's transactional.
It's transactional. It's 80% of it isn't. 80% of it is not friendship. And so I didn't get hope until later in life, later in my career, when it was like, and then I think that was the turning point of me really saying, I got to fight for myself, because I'm fighting for people that ain't helping me if I'm in trouble. I'm fighting for people that if I'm having marriage problems, can't none of them give me no advice because all of them jokers cheating on their wives or something. Or it's like, or I can't talk to nobody about what I'm dealing with my kids because they don't even talk to their kids. I don't even, I didn't understand hope until later when I was like, some way or another, the circle of your very small circle of people that are actually in your corner.
Yeah.
Family that stood with you through the darkest days. Some way or another, they didn't judge you. They helped you get out. When they went through, you helped them get out. When you count on your parents, count on your mama. Mama's always going to look out. Dad's going to look out, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't really recognize what hope felt like or how to get peace of mind and hope until later, when I was like, I can look back at 25 years and realize that all of my foolish choices, all of my embarrassments, all of my humiliations, I always made it out. I always came out of it. So, and I can say a lot that'll scare anybody and be like, yo, man, I ain't doing music. This dude, I ain't going, I ain't going into that world, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing, man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for a thing, because I've been able to, I'm 51 and I can say, which I don't think most people that I know can say is, and please don't take this as putting anybody down, but I don't know I've never in my life experienced what it's like to work a 9 to 5. Like, I don't know what it is to get up and, have to get a shower at 7 and
punch a clock. Yeah.
Come back home to 6 o'clock at night. Like, I have no idea what that means.
Right.
Like, I have no idea. So, not to say that in arrogance, but to say, Daniel, you've lived a life that you gotta be grateful for.
Yeah.
I gotta be humbled enough to say that, and I got enough moments that'll keep me grounded, because the moment I can think about all of the ups, I can think about 10 more downs for them. But I wouldn't change this for nothing, man. Music helped me through the darkest part of my life. Was I got into playing music because I couldn't play football anymore. I couldn't go outside. My older brother was out, and I used to embarrass the crap out of my brother, because this happened like maybe 6th grade. I was 9 years old when I found out, and by the time I get to high school, my freshman year, I'm on crutches. I had crutches, and I had the whole. You ever seen the kids they had the brace on their leg and they had the whole heel of their shoe was about this thick? That was literally me.
Wow. Okay.
Imagine me being a freshman and my brother is the popular senior. Like, I couldn't even call his name in the hallway. Like, Mike, ain't that your brother? Blah, blah. And you're like, no, just the embarrassment of what I brought to people. And music healed me through all of that. I got into jazz. Next thing you know, I'm in the jazz trio. When I'm starting to walk better, I got in marching band my junior year, and I'm in the band that's playing at the basketball games at school, and I'm in the concert band, and I'm playing clarinet one year, and next year I'm playing trombone. Like I went for all of it, and music healed me through that whole thing. And now
Wow.
here I am, 51, and I'm still able to say, I'm grateful to God because, our mortgage gets paid on time, our car notes aren't behind, our phones are on, the kids
Yeah.
eat very well, the house is covered,
Yeah.
I still got new deals coming and I'm still rebranding and new stuff is happening, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
it's been a beautiful life, man. I can't complain.
That's what's up, man. Let me ask you just a couple more questions. We'll wrap up here. Well, the one I want to ask is, have you had to deal with imposter syndrome throughout this whole process? Working with, I mean, you jumped in straight to greats. You didn't jump in with like the little guys who were trying to build a group and come up or whatever. You jumped in with greats. So
Yeah.
did you ever have to wrestle with imposter syndrome or feeling unworthy or uh, unequipped? How did you, if you did, how did you make it through that?
Like when you say imposter syndrome, not from Nary, from me.
Yes,
Like,
from
are
your
you
end.
saying,
From your end.
like,
Yes,
did
how
I,
you feel about you.
yeah,
Yes.
did I, yeah, I don't know if it's I don't know really know how to describe imposter syndrome. Did I feel like I didn't fit in? Maybe.
Yeah, you
Uh,
felt unqualified. You felt like
yeah,
I'm undeserving of where, like, am I good enough? Do
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, I never thought that, but I got fired a lot. So look. I never, I never, I never thought I wasn't good enough, but I done got sent home a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, so look. I think I was right out of high school, man. I got fired a lot.
hmm
Yeah. Um, so it was a scenario where Wendell Lowe got a call to MD Jennifer Holliday's Christmas album.
Okay.
So I mean, I might have been 18, 19. I mean, this was years ago. And so they called and they're like, "Hey Daniel, can you read music?" And I could read music, but I wasn't a fast reader. I mean, I had to read because I was in high school band, but
hmm
we weren't reading at like a concert level
Right.
speed. We're
Yeah.
reading at high school speed.
Yeah.
For what it is. And even for piano, I kind of cursed myself because I cheated. So my ear was so fast, it developed so fast that I could read it, and then once I read it once or got through it,
You already
I
knew.
I knew it. Like I
Yeah.
remember.
Yep.
So we get there, and they was like, it was like a you know A chair players, from strings and blah blah blah. It was downtown Chicago, and they just put the music in front of us, and it's like, okay, 1, 2, and I'm like, whoa, 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 I need a
You
little
ain't
time.
gonna run through this?
We
Yeah.
like, 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 slow down, hold on, give me 15 minutes. Let me skim through it. Let me figure my sharps. Like, it was just go.
Yeah.
So I got fired before I got sent home halfway through the intro of the first song. Like, they was like, this guy ain't it. They're like, he ain't it. And I, that wasn't the first time I got kicked off a bunch of gigs in my life, man.
uh-huh.
And I never thought that I wasn't good enough. I always used to get in my, I mean, you get fired enough and you start thinking something's wrong with you.
Right.
But I mean, it's like, I always felt like uh, maybe I was uh, trying to break in the worlds I wasn't supposed to be in
Okay.
after a while. Cause it was always two things. It was always the R&B stuff at a young age that I always got. It's like, yo, you sound too churchy, blah, blah,
hmm
blah. Until I figured out how to really work in multiple genres.
hmm
And then up until 20s or so, even though I grew up with Carl, and Carl was a church kid, and Don was a
hmm
church kid, and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I knew R. Kelly before he ever got his first. I knew R. Kelly when he was singing at train stations. So this was way young. I mean, this is 30 years ago.
Right.
So
Right.
it was like, it was always when I'm trying to hang with people or do stuff or be in certain worlds, it was either I didn't really know how to be authentic to that.
Mm-hmm.
It was either that or I felt the guilt of my Church and God of Christ parents telling me I'm in the
your
wrong.
doctrine. You going to hell. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we grew up, us growing up, it was like, man, going bowling, you going to hell. You go to the movie. That's on the top 10 list of the devil's your cousin. If you go to the movies, you friend.
Yeah.
I never really thought I just didn't learn enough. I was just,
Okay.
I felt too sheltered early with music. I felt too guilty to do stuff until maybe my mid-20s. And then I started really saying, yo, man, look, I'm going to just be honest. I love the Lord and I want to go to heaven, but these gigs ain't paying but $50. And they offered me $1,200 over here. And y'all want me to be at a revival for 4 days while I'm getting chicken.
Yeah, a hot plate. They give you
hot plate. It was like, man, I'm gonna be in foreclosure before I buy my first house if I keep dealing with church folk. So it's like, and I never really thought. I had to learn it. I had to understand that R&B has to be treated a certain way, and jazz is one thing, and then house music is its own thing.
It's another thing.
Thing. Country music is a whole nother. I had to learn how to be able to work in multiple places.
Right.
And the more comfortable I got and the more relationships I built, then I was able to work in different worlds. So I just had to learn it. I think I tried too fast to try to get accepted in places I wasn't ready for.
Got it. So for our audience, what are some words that you want to leave them with? What are some things? So we'll do a call to action one, and then what are some words that you want to share with them that? And I'm thinking about somebody who may be, driving to work or dropping their kids off at the daycare or at school on their way to work, and they're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
What's something you want to impart into them based on the story that you just shared over the last 40 minutes or so?
Yeah, it's real simple, man. We're all necessary. Like everybody's necessary. We weren't designed to duplicate people. People. I always feel like lazy people duplicate. People who don't feel that what they have is valuable enough, or the circle around you doesn't make you feel like what you have is valuable enough. It's not always about the platform. It's not always if I'm going to be a national artist, if I'm going to ever get to play outside the country. I actually posted this on Facebook the other day that just because you thrive locally doesn't mean you're supposed to necessarily have a local mindset.
Yeah.
You're not, you're who you are.
Right.
Your world around you might not expose it yet, but what you have, be it in music, be it in education, be it in whatever the umbrella is, how far it goes, if you're in helping others in childcare, mental health, whatever the world is that you explore, what you have is extremely necessary.
Wow.
Like it's needed. And you might not reach 10,000 people, but if you can say one person was affected in a positive way by what I'm doing, then I'm doing the right thing. Even if it changes in 10 years, even if you have a career change in 10 years, or even if you have, you move to another neighborhood or move out of state or start over and say, I want to go back to school and try something else. If it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And we can't keep these gifts and these passions locked up. We got to find a way to get heard. So if you out there and you're struggling with, man, this ain't it. It's several reasons why it might not go the way you think it's supposed to go. But another thing I've learned, and we could change questions, is I learned early what success is. The real value of success is not And I say that because I've seen a lot. The real value of success is not me playing in front of 700,000 people at a Mandela conference, because not one of them knew who I was. They knew who Beyonce was.
Right.
They had no idea who the little chocolate keyboard player is. They didn't go home saying, man, the piano player. That's the last thing on their mind. You know, I feel like I've directly touched more people when I made myself the priority. When I went out here and drove, and a lot of people don't believe it. Some people will believe it. Some people know how factual it is. You know for a fact how I do that. I've got 14, 15 platinum records on my wall. I've got Grammy statues and Grammy plaques and ASCAP awards, publishing awards. But when I had to fight for
Stellar,
and it's all there and it's great. But when I had to fight for me, I had to go get a U-Haul and get my band and load a U-Haul. And we drove from here to Birmingham for 15 hours to go play in front of 20 people. We would drive to Indianapolis to play for 45 people. We drove to Penn State, and it's like, yo, we fighting on fight. But then I felt more value because I was expressing me. I was expressing what I'm telling my story. So if you don't look at, and I felt that was success. That was my success level. And then coming home and kids are happy and blah, 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 and we still do it. Like, that's real success to me. So if you understand success and understand what you got in you, just keep fighting for it. It'll work out.
That's wonderful, man. What is your handles? How can people, follow you? How can they purchase the album? Tell us your albums and how can they purchase them? How can they connect with you?
Absolutely. The easiest way is if you want to learn the story or keep up with me, you can go to my website, which is Daniel Weatherspoon, WEATHER spoon.com. Update the tour schedule, performance dates here kind of regularly. Both the albums are there. The Langley Park Project, Journey, my new single, which came out a couple months ago, is I did a cover of Untitled, which is this D'Angelo piece. And I did it with Mark Kibble from Take Six and Hamilton Harden. So that came out back in October-ish.
Hamilton
is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that's the guy right there. Yeah.
So that came out in October or November. November, I think. Yeah, November, beginning of November. So Instagram is Daniel Weatherspoon. Facebook is Daniel Weatherspoon. It's real easy. They all stay the same.
Okay.
If you ever need to get to me, my manager is Alan Carter. You can go to the website, just scroll down to the bottom, and you can send a message, and it'll get to him, and we'll find a way to connect. I love to come to different cities and play and talk and meet people, and follow me on Instagram and all of that stuff, and it's real cool, man. It's real easy.
Sounds good. Well, we appreciate your time and this amazing story, man. This is good. I can't wait for this to release. Wow. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
We have wrapped up another edition of New Voices. So glad that you tuned in. Please follow us on social media. Also follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Also follow us at newutulsa.com, and you can check us out at the website. We are looking forward to great things coming out of 2024. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newutulsa.com. That is NEWUTulsa.com. Follow us on social media at New U Tulsa on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our free cohorts for personal and professional development opportunities. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.